At the Stanley Hotel, which is located in a secluded location close to the entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park and is just 70 miles away from the busy downtown area of Denver, Colorado, you will find one of the most famously haunted locations in the United States. Additionally, the Stanley Hotel is the famous inspiration for Stephen King's blockbuster horror book, The Shining. Since the day it first opened its doors on July 4, 1909, this historic Colonial Revival Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, has been providing its visitors with opulent facilities, breathtaking mountain vistas, and a profusion of terrifying legend. It is one of the oldest hotels that is still standing in the state of Colorado. It should come as no surprise that this menacing monument to early 20th century Americana has been attracting its fair share of ghost hunters and casual lovers of the paranormal for a considerable amount of time. The Stanley Hotel has a history similar to that of the Stanley Hotel, and its claim to fame is that it was the hotel that caused horror author Stephen King to shake in his boots. It is impossible to dismiss the reputation that the Stanley Hotel has built up as one of the most haunted hotels in Colorado and maybe even in the whole nation. Employees, customers, and historians alike agree that the Stanley Hotel has had its fair share of peculiar behavior throughout the course of its lengthy existence. In point of fact, the Stanley has been sought out by every major ghost hunting program that airs on television, in addition to a growing number of documentarians, podcasters, and amateur ghost hunters. Multiple of these individuals have located not just one, but multiple paranormal hotspots that are spread out over the hotel and its grounds. As a result of years of meticulous research and the success of Stephen King's novel The Shining, the Stanley Hotel has become not only the most haunted hotel in the United States, but also the most documented. It is said to have experienced everything from full-body apparitions and strange sounds to paranormal pranks that have caused more than one guest to flee the building in a hurry. Obviously, in spite of the fact that activity was recorded in almost every room of the hotel, there are some locations that have stood out more than others. One of the most popular locations that has attracted the attention of psychic mediums all over the globe is the main staircase of the hotel. It is an incredible piece of classical architecture that has been lovingly referred to as the vortex for a number of years throughout this time. It is often thought that this stairwell, which links the hotel lobby to the suites on the second level, is a type of paranormal gateway, a tunnel of spiritual energy. This stairway is frequently observed as the reason why a large number of ghosts and lost souls continue to remain about the Stanley Hotel. Psychics are not the only people who believe this, however, as a large number of hotel guests and personnel have personally experienced this haunted roadway, and it has continued to be an area with a significant number of verified sightings. The most recent instance of a little girl being photographed on the steps was taken by a visitor, despite the fact that there was no young girl there at the time. Because it was so convincing and so clear, the photo was also shown on the national news at that time. The majority of people believe that it is the most persuasive proof of the vortex, therefore you should look it up and see for yourself. The music hall, which was constructed by Stanley himself as a present for his wife Flora, has been the location of a number of peculiar late-night performances for a considerable amount of time. Now, in spite of the fact that there was a bowling alley erected beneath the stage for Staley and his friends, it would seem that Flora, who adored the Steinway grand piano that her husband had given her on the first day of the hotel's inauguration, would perform in the hall as often as she could. Even now, classical piano may be heard coming from the hall late at night, long after the musicians have departed and the guests have gone back to their rooms. This suggests that Flora's love of music has never truly left the Stanley, since it is possible to hear the piano playing even after the musicians have left them. These spectral concerts have been recorded for a considerable amount of time. Nevertheless, since the hall was refurbished in the year 2000, there has been a discernible rise in the number of performances, making it one of the more active locations in recent years. There are many who think that it is the ghost of Flora herself who is still making sure that her visitors are amused, or maybe she is attempting to preserve the old-world elegance that the Stanley Hotel has. And although the fourth level of the Stanley is not as well known as some of the other locations, it more than makes up for its lack of fame with the sheer amount of people that visit there. Strange and odd occurrences, including real sightings of ghosts, are more common in this location than they are in any other location. In its early days, the fourth level of the hotel was nothing more than an immense attic. During the winter months, when the hotel would shut down for the season, the attic was utilized for storage purposes. Several years later, it was constructed, first as in-house accommodation for female workers and their children, and then subsequently as hotel suites. The construction of the building took place. At this time, several visitors who are staying on the fourth floor have reported hearing youngsters laughing and playing till the wee hours of the night as they are racing through the hallways. It is reported that the doors of the closets in the rooms itself open and close on their own, and that people's belongings, particularly their clothes, tend to disappear, only to return later when they are tucked away in a drawer in an appropriate manner. Room 428, on the other hand, seems to be the most active of all the rooms, since there have been reports of heavy footsteps pacing across the room and furniture being adjusted while the inhabitants are sleeping. Moreover, the ghost of a solitary cowboy has made his presence known on several occasions, shocking a sleeping visitor by suddenly materializing at the side of their bed. This is an even more unsettling occurrence. Surprisingly, there is no record of a cowboy passing away in that chamber, yet many people who live in Estes Park think that he is the ghost of James Nugent, often known as Rocky Mountain Jim, a local mountain man and explorer who was responsible for a significant portion of the town's establishment. It is told that his spirit is drawn to female visitors and that he would occasionally give them a chilly, ghostly kiss in the middle of the night. He is known to be a bit of a ladies' man. There are a number of hauntings that have been reported at the Stanley Hotel. However, none of them can compare to the most infamous and much sought-after location in the hotel, which is room 217. Room 217 was the site of a terrible catastrophe that occurred during the early years of the Stanley Hotel. This event would prove to be an early sign of the shady past that would follow the Stanley for the remainder of its days. Mrs. Elizabeth Wilson, the head housekeeper at the hotel, was making her rounds late one night as a blizzard was rapidly coming in Colorado. She was lighting the acetylene lamps that were located around the hotel in preparation for a power loss. Unfortuitously, Mrs. Wilson was unaware of the fact that there was a leak on the second floor, which was gradually filling the whole wing with combustible gas. She could not have known this. When she entered room 217, she was striking a match under the lamp when the hotel was rocked by an explosion. The explosion destroyed the room, the hall, and the floor beneath it, which caused her to fall down into the dining room below. Surprisingly, no one was murdered, not even Mrs. Wilson, who suffered nothing more than 2 fractured ankles and a narrative that she would tell until the day she passed away. Despite this, the damage had already been done, and the tale was beginning to take shape.